Alright guys, so today we're going to start this portion of this unit off just a little bit differently. We're going to take some notes. So hopefully we kind of have an idea of what we're doing before we get to those stations. Alright, so these are going to be chemical reaction notes. So everybody should have a pencil and a piece of paper when you're watching this. And I want you to write down everything I write down. And I apologize if you can hear the dog in the background. She's playing. Okay, so whenever we do our PowerPoints, whenever we're reviewing with those PowerPoints, you always see those essential questions in the very front. All right, and we're going to write these essential questions down so we actually truly know what they are. Because the essential questions are what you guys are expected to be able to answer and know and explain when we are done with this lesson. All right, so I've kind of narrowed it down to 2 essential questions. All right, and the first one is going to be, what determines a chemical reaction has occurred? And how can we tell a new substance has been formed? All right, so if you currently right now cannot tell what determines a chemical reaction has occurred and how can we tell a new substance has been formed, we're going to figure it out. Okay, and I think I'm going to change how I did. So we'll do this. That's our essential question right there. And we'll go ahead and take the notes on that one, I think is what we'll do. So here's the notes portion for this one. I'm doing the notes a little differently than I ever have, but I'm going to have, instead of more bullet points, I'm going to start out with 1A, because that is the first part to the answer that goes to this. All right, so I'll have 1A, 1B, 1C, and everything that goes with that first essential one question will be started with the number 1. All right, so the first question that I want to ask is, what is a chemical reaction? So what happens during a chemical reaction? All right, whenever we were talking about the periodic table and atoms and valence electrons, we talked about their reactivity. But whenever we say that they are reacting, what does that really means? Well, when atoms or molecules or elements react, a chemical reaction is when 2 or more of those react and they create something new. Okay? So, reactions happen when 2 Indy, my dog doesn't like Miss Harris's dog, and so that's the growling. Reactions happen when 2 or more substances react and I want my other pencil or pen. Create a new substance. Okay, so that is important that you know it creates a new substance. All right, our next part to answer this question is going to be 1B. And what is some evidence that a chemical reaction has taken place. So what are things that we can see and, I didn't realize I was almost off paper. What are things that we can see when we're doing experiments in the lab that would give us examples of a chemical change? So this takes you back to 6th grade when we talked about chemical and physical changes, right? And we know that physical changes doesn't change the substance. It just may change its shape or cut it in half, you know what I mean? But chemical changes actually change the substance. So when we think about those chemical changes, one piece of evidence would be a production of a gas. So when we were in the lab at the very beginning of this year, we put the Alka-Seltzer in the water and it bubbled. So when we see production of gas, evidence of that is bubbles form. All right, another thing is a change in temperature. Okay, a change in temperature means that it could get warm or it could get cold. There's different things. If you think about the like heat packs that you can open up and whenever you rub them together, they heat up. Those are chemical changes, and that would be an example of a heat change. Another thing would be a color change. Now, a color change does not always mean a chemical change. If we mix a bunch of paint together, it's not really a chemical change. They just blended. So you got to be careful on that. If we go and paint a chair, we didn't make a chemical change. We just put some color on a chair. All right. Another one is a production of light. So if you think about a fire produces heat and light, and so that would be evidence of a chemical reaction. And I added this one, a precipitate. I do not like saying this word, but it is one of your vocabulary, I believe. Okay, and what a precipitate is a solid that forms from a solution, and a solution are going to be liquids. So a precipitate is whenever a solid forms, say you mix two liquids together and then you have a solid that forms inside that would be a precipitate. And that is obviously, when you have a solid come out of two liquids, you had a chemical change. All right, and the last part of this is 1C. How can we tell new substances are formed with chemical equations? All right, and chemical equation, hopefully we all are understanding what that is at this point of this unit. Trying to find my example that I wrote out all big and pretty, and I don't know where it's at. But if you think back to the photosynthesis chemical equation, there it is. This right here. All right, so this is photosynthesis chemical. This whole thing is the chemical equation. All right, and if you remember, these are the reactants, these are the products. This arrow means yield. And remember, this is our wrap. Reactions are over here on the left side, arrows in the middle, products are over here. So if we look at, these are the things we started with before the chemical reaction happened. Chemical reaction took place, and this is what we ended up with, our products, right? So what we can do is we can compare the molecules, which is a water molecule and carbon dioxide molecule, that reacted together, and we can see what they made. All right, so if we look here, we started out with water and carbon dioxide. We ended up, our products were glucose and oxygen, which is the air that we breathe. That's the gas that we need. All right, so did we end up with water over here? No, we did not. Did we end up with CO2 over here? No, we did not. These are brand new molecules, right, that are not these. The elements are still the same. We still have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen over here, which is what we started, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen over here, but we rearranged them into new substances. All right, so our answer on here is we can compare molecules on the reactant side. And what side is the reactant side on? The left side. We're going to compare those to the molecules on the product side, which is the right side. All right, and then we compare them, right? That's first step. So if they're not the same on both sides, then we know some new substances have been formed. Oops, spelled that wrong, sorry. Okay, so now, if we look back up here at our essential question, what determines a chemical reaction has occurred, and how can we tell new substances have been formed? Well, what determines, did something new be made? Was there a new substance? Did any of these things happen that showed us, that was evidence that that happened? And when we look at their chemical equation, did the molecules change? Because if they did, something new has been formed. All right, so if you study this right here, we have one more essential question, but what I'm going to do, I don't know how long I've been recording this, but I feel like it's probably longer than I wanted. And so I don't want to do the other one on the same video, but in your assignment, I will have both of these linked. So you're going to need to, on the same piece of paper, you can flip it over on the back of this one when you get to the other thing, because I want you to take all these notes together, because we have 2 essential questions. This is just the first one, and this is the answer. The next one is a little bit longer, and we got to work out some problems. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end this one, but you're not done. You still have your other one, your second essential question that you need to answer. So go click on that link and keep on working. Hope this helps.